The Book of Esther is a story told without mentioning God's name, yet filled with his presence. It unfolds in the courts of ancient Persia, among kings and queens, feasts and decrees, pride and fear, courage and consequence. This series follows the story of Esther over many episodes, as a historical and narrative journey, watching how God's providence moves quietly through human decisions, political power, and moments that seem ordinary, until history turns. As the Book of Esther continues, the scene shifts from lavish celebration to sudden crisis. The great banquet has reached its final day. For 6 months, King Ahasuerus has displayed the wealth and power of his vast empire. For 7 days, the people of the capital have feasted in the palace gardens. Now, on the 7th day, Scripture tells us that the heart of the king was merry with wine. This detail matters. The Bible does not linger on the king's emotions, but it tells us enough. This is not a moment of sober judgment. It is a moment shaped by pride, indulgence, and public display. In this setting, King Ahasuerus issues a command that will alter the course of history. He summons Queen Vashti. 7 chamberlains, trusted attendants of the royal household, are sent to bring her before the king, wearing her royal crown, so that the people and nobles may gaze upon her beauty. The text is restrained, but the implications are heavy. Vashti is not invited to join the feast. She is commanded to be displayed. Whether the request was meant as a grand finale or as something more humiliating, Scripture leaves room for interpretation. What we do know is that the audience was a room filled with powerful men, many of whom had been drinking for days. And Vashti, the queen, is asked to present herself as an object of admiration before them all. Queen Vashti refuses. No speech is recorded, no explanation is given. The Bible simply states the fact. She does not come. Was Vashti acting from personal dignity? Was she resisting being reduced to an object of display? Was she asserting a boundary with political implications? Perhaps all of these. It is possible that Vashti was not only a queen, but a woman of influence, someone whose visibility and authority made her refusal more threatening to the system than to herself. That may help explain something else the text does not say. She is not executed. In a world where royal commands were law, and where disobedience could cost a person their life, this is an extraordinary act. Vashti's refusal is quiet, but it is bold. Whatever her reasons, she draws a line. She will not be paraded. She will not comply. The king's response is immediate. He becomes furious. His anger burns within him. Here, the story opens a window into the fragility of power. Ahasuerus rules an enormous empire, yet he cannot command the obedience of his own queen. Public authority has collided with private defiance, and the king does not know how to respond. To his credit, he does not act alone. Instead, he turns to the wise men who knew the times, court advisors expected to understand law, custom, and consequence. These men are not prophets of God. They are political counselors, skilled in preserving order and protecting the structures of power. Among them are 7 princes of Persia and Media, men who see the king's face and sit first in the kingdom. They are not concerned merely with Vashti. They are concerned with precedent. And it is Memucan who speaks. His response is shrewd and revealing. He expands the issue far beyond the king's wounded pride. Vashti, he says, has not wronged the king only, but all the princes and all the people throughout the provinces of the empire. Why? Because if the queen's refusal becomes known, women everywhere may begin to despise their husbands. Authority, once questioned at the top, might unravel at every level. This is fear speaking. Fear of loss of control. Fear of example. Fear that power, once challenged, cannot easily be reclaimed. So a solution is proposed, swift, decisive, and irreversible. Vashti is to be removed from the king's presence forever. Her royal position will be given to another woman, someone deemed better than she. A decree will be issued throughout the empire, translated into every language, declaring that every man is to rule his own household. The irony is sharp. An empire confident enough to govern vast territories feels threatened by one woman's refusal to be paraded before drunken men. And King Ahasuerus agrees. The decree is written, sealed, and sent. The famous Persian postal system ensures that the message travels swiftly and efficiently. What began as a personal moment now becomes imperial law. Vashti disappears from the narrative, not because she was insignificant, but because the system moved quickly to erase her influence. She is not publicly tried. She is not publicly shamed. She is simply removed. But she should not disappear from our understanding. Too often, Queen Vashti is treated as a footnote, an obstacle to Esther's rise, a woman dismissed for disobedience. But the text invites us to pause. Vashti stands firm in a moment that could have cost her everything. She does not protest loudly. She does not rally support. She simply refuses to be reduced. Was she politically powerful? Possibly. Was she protected by her status? Perhaps. Was she aware of the risks? Almost certainly. And yet she chooses dignity over safety. In doing so, she exposes the weakness of a king who appears increasingly impulsive, reactive, and dependent on others for wisdom. Compared to his grandfather Cyrus, known for vision and restraint, Ahasuerus often seems driven by mood rather than discernment. From a human perspective, this is political maneuvering, fear-driven legislation, and insecurity on display. But the Book of Esther invites us to look again. Because over all of this, over flawed kings, self-interested advisors, and unjust decrees, there is another hand at work. God's providence. God is not named. He is not consulted. He is not invoked. And yet the consequences of this decision will ripple outward, beyond Persia, beyond the palace, and into the preservation of the Jewish people. The demotion of Vashti makes room for Esther. Not by accident, not by coincidence, but through the mysterious way God works within human history, even through human wrongdoing. Men act from pride. Advisors act from fear. Decrees are written to protect power, and God weaves purpose through it all. Vashti's strength, whatever its precise motive, was real. The injustice she faced was real. The political calculations surrounding her removal were real. But Scripture is doing something deeper here. Behind the flawed decisions of men, God's providence is quietly moving. This decree, born out of pride and fear, creates a vacancy in the palace. A place will soon need to be filled. And in the chapters to come, a young Jewish woman, unknown, unassuming, and hidden, will be drawn into that space. Nothing in this scene mentions God, and yet everything is moving according to his purpose. The Book of Esther does not sanitize power. It shows us rulers who are insecure, advisors who manipulate fear, and systems that protect themselves at the expense of justice. But it also shows us that God's plans are not derailed by human weakness. They move through it. As this chapter closes, the empire rests under a new law. The king believes order has been restored, but in reality, the story is only beginning. God is at work, unseen, unnamed, unstoppable, and history has already begun to turn. As we close, listen to the words of Scripture from which this episode was taken. Esther, chapter 1, verses 10 through 12, King James Version. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, and Abagtha, Zethar, and Carcass, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king, to bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and the princes her beauty, for she was fair to look on. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him. Esther chapter 1 verses 13 through 19. Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew law and judgment. And the next unto him was Carshena, Shethar, Admatha, Tarshish, Maris, Marsena, and Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, which saw the king's face, and which sat the first in the kingdom. What shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to law, because she hath not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlains? And Memucan answered, before the king and the princes, Vashti the queen hath not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes, and to all the people that are in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes, when it shall be reported, the king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not. Likewise shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king's princes which have heard of the deed of the queen. Thus shall there arise too much contempt and wrath. If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before King Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she. Esther, chapter 1, verses 20 through 22. And when the king's decree which he shall make shall be published throughout all his empire, for it is great, all the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both to great and small. And the saying pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Memucan. For he sent letters into all the king's provinces, into every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language, that every man should bear rule in his own house, and that it should be published according to the language of every people.